This is the Backlog Exposed podcast, bringing you weekly discussions on gaming, as well as quick insights into sports, entertainment, and anything else that we can think of. To get in touch with us, ask questions, or just hang out and chat, join us in the Backlog Exposed Discord. Follow us on Twitter at @TheBacklogPod, or send us an email at thebacklogexposed@gmail.com. You can find all of our social media information, as well as many different ways to listen to our podcast by visiting our website, thebacklogexposed.com.
I'm Joe.
I'm Kevin.
And we are
The Backlog
Exposed.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of The Backlog Exposed. I'm your host, Kevin, and alongside me today is a special guest, Darrin. We'll be introducing him here in a minute, but I just want to give you some heads up here. Today is October 14th, 2018, and we are getting close to the end of the year. Some big titles are coming out, and I can't wait to dive into the details of some of those. We're really close. We're less than a month away from Tetris. We are seeing the arrival of Call of Duty Black Ops 4, and we just had a big announcement with Borderlands 2 VR on PlayStation VR. So you all know how I feel about the VR and the quality of the games coming out there as they start to increase. I'm starting to get really excited, and I want to talk to Darrin about that today. So Joe isn't able to make it today, and Darrin gladly stepped in. Darrin was going to be on our roundtable a couple of weeks ago when we had the roundtable, but he just couldn't make it. He lives out in LA. And some background around Darrin, I've known him pretty much, I would say, all my life. I mean, there were some years prior to Darrin, but those don't matter.
So we were 16, right? I think we were 16 when we met.
We were 16, algebra class.
Was it algebra? Yes, it was algebra class. That's right.
Algebra class. Darrin, when I first met him, he had long golden brown blonde hair. And the kind you would sell these days, you know, the kind you would give away. And
that's true.
And
it was very luxurious.
It was. And the long story short of it was, I told him if he shaved his head, he'd look like Woody Harrelson from Natural Born Disasters. He believed me, he shaved his head, and the rest is history. Here we are today.
Well, you got to remember the reason why you did that was because I think it was Jed that convinced you to shave your head. No,
I
looked terrible.
I just did it. Did it.
Did you just do it for no reason?
Yeah, I wanted to see because it was like I'm a spontaneous kind of guy, so I wanted to. It wasn't a dare or anything. I remember I bleached my hair or peroxided my hair.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So yeah, when I wanted to get rid of the bleach golden locks that I had. They were actually like terrible fried hair. It was, don't ever peroxide your hair. It's stupid.
It was so fried, yeah.
Especially now that I'm balding, I miss that hair, and I see these videos and pictures. It's like, oh, well, those were the days.
Well, I mean, that's the funny thing is you had shaved your head, and then you convinced me to shave my head just because you didn't want to be the only one with the shaved head. And we both, in our teenage years with shaved heads, we both looked absolutely terrible.
It's
and then,
funny
of course,
how
we both got older, our hair thinned, we shaved our heads, and now I think it's the right look for both of us.
Absolutely. But isn't that funny, though? Like, when you look back, when you're 16 and you have a shaved head, it's just, was it just uncomfortable and out of the norm, or did we really look bad?
You know what? There was this funny sketch on Saturday Night Live about, I think it was inspired by Breaking Bad, about guys with thinning hair. If you shave your head and you grow a beard or a goatee, you'll look like a badass. Yeah. And I have a beard now, and I know you have facial hair. And I think that's what we were missing when we were, 16 years old.
Definitely, because if I shave my
facial hair to round it out,
you're dead on. If I shave my face right now, I look like an asshole, and I can't do it.
Yep.
I can't do it. So I grow the facial hair out, and I know some people who are like, man, if you're bald, why would you have a beard? I hate bald with beard or whatever. And then you see a ton of people bald with beard. For some reason, it looks good to me. It feels better. I have no idea if it matters to anybody else, or if my wife prefers one over the other or whatever. But yeah,
I think you look good.
So
I think you look good. I think you found your style.
I appreciate that. I mean, I don't really have much of an option.
Right. Yeah. But
I think we both look good. We're getting up there, man. We're almost 40, and
yeah, that's so true.
And we're looking good. I mean, I could be thinner, could be more active, but look where we're at. I mean,
I've lost a bunch of weight. I've lost about 35 pounds since April.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
What do you got going on? What's the reason?
Keto. I'm doing the keto diet.
Are you doing did you know I did the keto diet multiple
times?
Did you?
When did you do that?
years ago when I lost like 35, 40 pounds.
Yeah, it does the trick, doesn't it?
It does the trick. I mean, so for those of you who aren't familiar with the keto diet, it's the long story short of it is practically no carbs. Take almost all the carbs out of your diet. And
sugar, no sugar.
And sugar, yeah. But the sugar turns into carbs, or carbs turn into sugar, whatever, vice versa. Yeah. But here's the golden rule with keto. Don't eat anything white, right? So no white flour, no white sugar. You can actually dabble, once you've hit the ketosis, you can dabble in raw sugar. You can dabble in wheat flour. You can have a piece of wheat bread. It's not going to take you out of ketosis. So that to get into ketosis, you have to deprive your body of the sugars, of the carbohydrates. And just to kind of cap this off, the science behind it, from what I understand, and this could be kind of off base, but the reality is your body has a couple of different sources of fuel. So like if you take a Red Bull or 5 Hour Energy, you're getting a burst of energy. It's the premium for your body. It knows to go to that. Just scientifically, that's the best source of fuel. So it's going to burn that off real fast. And since there's abundance of it, your body gets hyped up. And once it's gone, it'll dive back into the next best source. So
I think of that stuff as, do you remember Back to the Future 3? Do you remember they're on the train and he had to fuel the train to get it up to 88 miles per hour? So he'd made these special bundles of fuel you throw them into the train and it makes it burn really fast for a very short amount of time. That's what caffeine and those kinds of things are for. Yeah,
exactly. And it gives you that boost, but you can't go on it forever. So like if you take caffeine, your body's going to naturally just kind of go to the next best source, because caffeine is not, it's the best source for a burst, but your body will know it can't sustain that. So it's going to go back to the carbs or whatever's the fat, and it's going to start burning that. So people who are overweight have an abundance of fat, and fat is a source of energy for your body. Yeah. It's technically there to be a last reserve. And so like when you eat, and you eat sugars and you eat carbs and all that stuff, all those nutrients and things you're taking into your body and bad stuff and all that is being absorbed. And right now, especially in America, there's a carb-centric rich diet. I mean, almost anything on the shelves has high sodium, high carbs. It's processed and blah, blah, blah. So to keep it simple, your body gets deprived of the carbs and it's looking for the next best source of energy, which is fat. So you go into this thing called ketosis. Now you have to deprive your body for a sustained period of time. And usually it's 2 to 4 days. Once you hit this ketosis, they call it, you dive into, your body goes through this change. And sometimes it takes up to 2 weeks. You hit this ketosis, you have a day or two of hell. I mean, the first time I did it, you feel like you've been hit by a truck. Basically, your body's switching energy sources because it's run out of the carbs. And now it's diving into the stockpile of reserves. For me, I had an extra 35, 40 pounds at the time. And it starts eating at it.
But you know what? I've got a very good way of keeping your body from hitting that where you feel like absolute garbage.
What's that?
So what I did is for 5 or 6 years leading up to the diet, I ate nothing but fast food and cookies all day long. So by the time when I got on the diet and I slipped into ketosis, sure, I was feeling like garbage, but much less garbage than I felt like all the time, every day.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's a good point. It's funny how the cheapest foods and that stuff is the most readily available. So you dive to it. You know, the McDonald's if I ate McDonald's every day, it's cheaper than going to the store and buying food for dinner for $4. You know, it really is. I mean, if you keep it small.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, I mean, if you just go and get a couple things from the dollar menu, especially if you go to Burger King, man, you can get like 20 nuggets for $1.99. It's ridiculous. But that stuff isn't really good for you. So your body is so used to it. Yeah, you feel like shit. So when you hit this source of energy, when your body says, okay, I'm going into the reserves and I'm going in for real, like this is now my source of energy, you start melting off the pounds. I mean, it is like you have like
I lose an average of 10 pounds a month.
Yeah. And the first month, probably 15, right? I mean, you start melting it away, especially if you accompany
it was crazy. It was crazy.
If you have any level of activity, and Darrin is a pretty active guy in the sense of, he's out and about, he's doing things all the time. We'll get into that in a minute, but yeah, I mean, if you're going to the gym, if you accompany this with not only just not eating the carbs, but sustaining a better, healthier diet as well, not only will you drop a bunch of weight, but you will feel like $1 million. So I praised and preached keto for a while. There's a lot of things online that say it's bad for you and this and that, but you know what? I think carrying around 400 pounds is bad for you too. So
yeah, and you know what? And I'm not going to do it forever. Once I got to lose 20 more pounds, then I'll be at my goal weight. And once I hit that, I'm not going to do keto anymore, but I'm going to do like keto light. I'm still going to stay on a very low carb diet to maintain the weight loss. Yeah. But I will start dipping into carbs and stuff like that just to kind of get back onto a more natural thing.
I'm proud of you for sticking with it. Keep it up. I mean, it's better than that cayenne pepper diet, right?
Oh my God, that was the worst. It nearly killed me. That almost put me in the hospital.
Tell people a little bit about that real quick.
I did. It was called the Master Cleanse. And what it is you don't eat anything, but you make a drink. It's water. It's you juice lemons. You take like 1 lemon's worth of juice, put it in the cup of water. You put cayenne pepper in the water, and then 1 teaspoon of like the super high grade maple syrup.
Sounds so
And the
good.
maple syrup is the only thing you're getting your calories from is 1 teaspoon of maple syrup. And you're supposed to do probably about 6 of those drinks a day. You're supposed to do one every couple of hours. Every time you get hungry, you do one of those. And I read a book on it, and I was all geared up, and I did some research online, and everyone's like, oh, this is so cool. So I did it. And it was like, I felt like garbage. And I looked online, and all the Master Cleanse websites are like, oh, feeling like garbage is the toxins leaving your body. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I've got all these toxins built up, and now they're leaving, and it just makes me feel like I'm going to die. Okay, I understand. And then the bathroom situation, I don't want to get into the bathroom situation, but it was bad and horror movie style stuff going on there.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, all you're taking in is cayenne pepper, water, lemon, and a little bit of maple syrup. And
believe me, cayenne pepper is not good on the back door.
Yeah.
It's a rough thing to be putting through your body 6 times a day.
And it goes through your body pretty quick, right? Once you've emptied out
it does.
Your digestive system.
And one of the other things you're supposed to do is every morning you either take laxatives or you drink, you take a 32-ounce container, fill it with water, and then the certain amount of salt in that water will turn it into essentially salt water. And you drink that, and it's 30 minutes, almost exactly 30 minutes from when you drink that 32-ounce salt water that it just flushes straight out your body. And you're supposed to do that every morning.
So one of the things I love about catching up with Darrin is, we literally used to hang out every day for many, many years of our lives. We went to school in Boston together. He actually lived with my brother for a couple of years. And we've been really, really close all of our lives, but we've both gone our separate ways in our careers and stuff. And I mean, my separate way is really just kind of being a nomad. I've lived all across the East Coast, but Darrin hiked up his boots and moved all the way out to LA after growing up in New Hampshire. And so it was a huge, huge undertaking for him. And he's not only sustained, but he has made a huge career in doing so. And while it's always, especially if you think back to 10 years ago now, the writer's strike and stuff like that.
It was almost exactly 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, living out there
10 years ago, things were so bad. I couldn't get work. It was almost 2 years. I didn't get like real work, and I almost had to move into your basement.
Yeah. And we were ready.
I couldn't pay my rent out here in California.
Darrin's the kind of person, though, for the audience to understand that if he showed up tomorrow and said, I need a place to live, he would have it. That's just, there's no doubt. And so while we haven't talked to each other every day or kept in touch as much as we'd like to, it's like just like right now. We haven't talked in weeks, but we can pick right up. We can go for hours if we need to, and we're always there for each other. So I want Darrin to give a little background, because I know this is a video game podcast, but it's really about the entertainment industry as well. We talk about movies, we talk about things that people who listen to this podcast might enjoy. And so I can guarantee you that you've watched something that Darrin has chosen a location for, or worked on, or, you know, sidelined somebody with, you know, to discuss whatever, you know. So give us a little bit of your, you know, like some of the highlights of your career and how you got to where you're at today and what you're doing.
Sure. You know, I moved out in 2004 is when I got to California, and I spent the next couple of years, like most people do who want to get into the film industry, doing a kind of a little bit of everything. You know, you do production assistant work. I was doing reality TV shows. So it's a lot of like, I was doing, you know, sometimes I'd do camera, sometimes I'd do art department, sometimes I would do grip and electric lighting type stuff. And I just kind of did a little bit of everything until one day I fell into location scouting. And I was on a show, and it was called Campus Ladies, which was Jonah Hill's first kind of, I mean, it wasn't his very first thing, but it was his first thing, I think, where he got like a leading role. And it was a great little show on Lifetime TV, very funny. And that show, the crew members on that show was originally non-union. It went on strike, and then suddenly it flipped union. And, you know, my boss came to me and said, okay, so the show flipped union. They're giving all the days retroactively. So because you've been on this show for 6 months, you now have enough days to qualify for the location manager's union. And I was like, oh, great. And he's like, yeah, so if you do a union show, you get probably 3 times as much money as you're getting now. And me being completely broke at the time was like, that's amazing. That's what I'll do. So I joined the location manager's union. I started doing union location shows, and still in my head I was like, oh well, I'm here to be a writer, I'm here to be a director, so I'm just going to kind of do everything. I'll do everything that's thrown at me. But after doing a couple location shows at union rate, I was just making so much money that like 5 years later I kind of looked and said, I can't really go back to doing other things. I can't start over. Like, I've made a career doing locations, and that's kind of what I do now. So I've been doing that for over 10 years now, doing location scouting, and it's a weird job, because I tell people I'm a location scout, and they say, oh, so you find different places, you take pictures of them, the director picks them. I'm like, yeah, but there's more to it than that. That's probably, I would even say, maybe a third of my job. The other 2/3 of my job is negotiations with those locations, so getting like contracts in order.
When you say negotiations, do you have to go in to, say you want to film at a bar?
Yep.
Do you go in and ask the bartender where the owner is, or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I do. I'll walk into the bar and say, you know, hey, I'm Darrin. I'm a location scout for a movie. Who do I talk to if I want to film here? And they'll either most of the time it's the bartender himself, but a lot of times it's you know, an owner. Some they'll give me a phone number. I'll track them down. And usually that starts with me just saying, like, you know, here's the movie. This is when we're going to shoot. I'd love to just take some pictures. And if my bosses like it, we'll talk more details. And then I do. And if they like it, then I go back and say, okay, so they like it. We want to shoot here. So, you know, how much we want to rent you out for a whole night. How much do you make in a night? Let's make a deal.
And so do these places desire you coming in there and asking, or is it like, okay, we'll do it because it's good for business long term? Like, is it a pain in the ass for them? Or
it's usually, because usually when we shoot something, we don't use their name. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily that it's good for business. What it's good for is, I can guarantee them, if we work out a money that they like, then I guarantee them that they're not going to have a bad night. You know,
yeah.
They figure out how much money they make. A lot of times they'll figure out how much money they're going to pay their employees, and that way their employees get a paid night off, and they guarantee that, you know, they know exactly what kind of money they're going to make that night. But a lot of places will charge me more than they would make in a night, because they don't want to piss off their customers, their regulars who are not going to be able to drink there that night. So they need to see a little bit of incentive there.
Yeah, absolutely. So and this is obviously a rhetorical question here, but the quality of the movie might drive the desire to let you use their plays, right? So if you're doing Arrested
Oh,
Development,
absolutely.
or
Yeah, I worked.
Bumblebee,
Yeah, Arrested Development. I worked on True Detective as well, and those were I did the second season of True Detective, and so the first season had done so well that if I went in there and said like, "Hey, I'm working on True Detective," a lot more people were excited about being a part of that.
are they doing a 3? I mean, I haven't heard anything about season 3.
They are. They are. They're doing a third season. I heard it's just
Good.
coming out. They
Okay.
shot it in Tennessee or something like that, I think.
Oh wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So so what are, you said True Detective. I know you worked on Bumblebee, right? That was a big one.
That's probably the biggest one I've worked on. That's coming out in Christmas. I'm really excited about it. I think that one's going to be really good.
The trailers and the sneak peeks look phenomenal on that one. And
Yeah.
me personally, I feel like there's more of out of all the Transformers in the first couple of movies, they made Bumblebee be the most relatable somehow, I guess.
Yes. Yep.
And so, while it's a spin-off, it really, to me, feels like it could be another 3 or 4 movies.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do because it's a prequel. So they could totally run with that. It's a prequel that's set in the 80s, and they could totally run with that and do like a series of movies like from the 80s, building up that way, which would be really interesting to see. Or they could just do the one, and they could I mean, they got a lot of options to do with it, and I think
he didn't die, did he?
What's that?
He didn't die in the film, right? In the Transformers 4 or 5 or whatever.
Bumblebee? Honestly, I didn't. I've only seen the first couple movies. I didn't watch all of them before I worked on this one.
I didn't. I don't know what it was. I love Transformers. I do, and so I don't know why I didn't. I have them on my backlog. That's one of the things that I have all the Transformer movies. I want to kind of rewatch all of them from the first one. I didn't see one I didn't like, so I don't know why I haven't watched them all.
It's interesting. So I sign non-disclosure agreements with all these jobs I work on, and so I got to be very careful about
absolutely
what I talk about. So I don't know that I can necessarily give an opinion on the Transformers franchise, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel comfortable saying that Bumblebee is going to be a great movie. I feel very highly about that. But I don't necessarily know if what I can say about my opinions of some of the other movies I may or may not have watched.
Yeah, no, seriously. It's pretty cool. We could have whole podcasts dedicated to talking, and maybe we will, I think. But another thing I wanted to talk about before we dive into some of the stuff we need to get into is you dabbled in game creation, and I mean at the early years, and you actually considered going in that route. You have a very, very great friend, Joe, who is in the industry.
He's working at Blizzard right now. He's working on Heroes of the Storm.
Oh, that's right. I did know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so when you look at you, right, you went into movies and now you've worked on movies that are phenomenal and, that everybody knows, household name type things. And then you have Joe, who has also worked on games that are phenomenal household name games. Hearing that he works at Blizzard is just crazy. So,
yeah.
So you have background in video games. You've played just like me. We've been playing video games since we were kids. We used to do LAN parties with StarCraft and
yes.
What was it? Warcraft 2.
Yes, tons of Warcraft 2. That's right.
Remember, we'd get like 70 red dragons and send them across the map. And then someone would pick up the phone and disconnect us. And
yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, we've been playing games all of our lives, and we have other careers and other jobs that dictate. So Darrin, while he's not, doesn't have a kid, he fits nicely into the idea that there are things more important than playing video games in his life. He doesn't get to play as much as he wants, and so he has a backlog of his own, and we'll get into what's on that as well.
It's usually just work, but ever since you started the show, I was trying to figure out exactly how much time do I have to play video games, and I've kind of made an effort to play some more games and stuff like that, but I really think it boils down to about 2 hours a week.
Oh, wow.
I can play video games. Usually like an hour on Saturday and like an hour on Sunday. And that's pretty much the only time I have.
An hour of video game play on your Sunday. But it's funny too, right? I started the Backlog podcast with the notion that I didn't have time to play video games, and now I'm doing, a couple hours a week, and the editing and all that stuff adds up. But I enjoy this. So, just like the 3D, I bought a 3D printer. I got a cheap one, and
oh, how do you like that?
I love it, man. It's practical, right? It seems impractical, but practical. Like, are you really going to use all these little things you can make? Well, you know what? Yeah. If you take the time and you find things that are important for what you need, some of it is nonsense. Some of it is not things you really need to print, but just little things to make your clutter go away, like containers or clips. If a belt clip breaks, you can reprint it. There's so many.
That's interesting.
People out there can make the 3D version of what you need, and then you just need the file. So there's websites that you can go browse millions of 3D files, and then
you know what I really want a 3D printer for? Making Dungeons and Dragons miniatures.
Yeah, I mean that's such a huge market for that, and you could for $150. I'd say 200 because you have to buy the filament and all that stuff. The filament's the plastic that goes into it. But for like $200, you could be popping off custom miniatures, and all the 3D software that you need is free, right? So you just have to take time. It's just time. And so that's the last probably the last week and a half, I've been doing more of that than playing video games. I've set aside some video game stuff. But what's crazy is, so I have a thing called a Stream Deck. I don't know if you've heard of this.
No.
But all it is a little computerized or a digital icon pad. It's 15 buttons, and I can customize these buttons to do anything I want, just like an icon on my computer, but I don't have to double click it or anything. And I have them, it's like a control station, right? So I have this thing, the Stream Deck, and it is for streamers if they want to like change scenes or whatever on the fly or do this or that, turn off their mic. So you can customize pretty much anything. I can send a tweet from it with a click of a button, all that stuff. Well, I'm not streaming as much as I used to. I streamed for a good couple of months, and I didn't have a whole lot of viewers, so I kind of pulled back on that. But I bought this thing, and I customized it to do everything I want, like with my computer. So if I'm doing the podcast, I have certain buttons in front of me. If I'm editing with Photoshop, there's certain icons, so like fast keys to do stuff. It's really, really cool. So anyways, I found a model Stream Deck holder because the base that comes with it is just kind of flimsy and everything, so it was constantly falling over. So I found this model, and I wanted to print it, but I was like, I also have a cell phone. I mean, if you saw my house, it's funny. I have a command center in my bedroom. I have 3 TVs, a computer monitor, a laptop, and then a work monitor or work laptop. And then I have a 4x4 HDMI switch that can control, I can have any input go on any output. So I can put my PlayStation on one TV while I send my work laptop to another and this and that. It's pretty
great.
fun. And so I built this there's an app that I can basically have all the panels for each thing. So my A1, A2, A3, A4, all that stuff is right in front of me at all times on this old cell phone I had. So long story short, I just have this digital touchpad rather than having to go find a remote and figure out what button to hit to turn this on or that. I just have this digital thing. And so I figured, you know what? What if I made the Stream Deck holder with a slot at the top to fit the phone in so that this thing could look like a little, little more professional looking thing, right? So I built this thing the other day. It took me a little while because I'd never done 3D modeling before, but I figured it out.
It's hard.
It is hard.
I took a class on it at Emerson College, and it was hard.
I think the hardest part for me is understanding the 3D workspace. Like, I can do 2D editing like there's no tomorrow, and I'm getting into the audio stuff, and even the audio editing is interesting on its own right. It's a linear editing, but it's not like there's depth to sound, so you're kind of getting into a 3D working. But when you're dealing with a 3D plane, your brain has to accept what's going on here. So there's a lot of things you have to, like you said, it's hard. You have to get yourself used to it. So it took me a little while, but I put 2 things together basically, and I merged them, and I molded it to exactly how I wanted it. And this was just the other day, right? For this very customized thing, a Stream Deck with a 1+1 phone holder.
Right.
4 people have already downloaded this thing to print.
Wow.
What? Like in a couple of days, this particular, like there's already a Stream Deck. So that means there's 4 people who saw this and said, oh, I could probably put my phone in that. And that's a great idea. So interesting, little side thing there. So
that's great. Yeah, I would like to get one of those soon.
And the cool thing with and if Joe were here, I would do this, but oh shit, no, that's
a little bit of something.
Did you hear that? Did you hear it?
I did, yes.
Okay, cool. So I built this little soundboard so I can just hit buttons.
That Joe?
Yeah.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Joe.
I'm
Joe.
I was doing that last week. Like just
I'm Kevin.
So I
okay, that's the soundboard. I was like, wait, did Joe just come on? Did he just
exactly
break into the meeting? I don't see him there.
I'm Joe.
I just put these things together. Like I haven't had time to go in and isolate some more stuff, but I was playing with that last week and messing with Joe. So yeah, that's what's cool about it. I can put like anything I want. I can just kick it off right here with a touch of a button.
That's awesome.
So, okay, so we've ranted and raved enough. Let's get into some nitty gritty.
We gotta. I mean, your audience is going to be pissed off that at the very beginning of the show you're like, we're going to talk about this, and this. If we don't actually get to those things,
yeah, we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it. So, okay, first things first. Only because
first things first. I'm the realist.
That's right. Well, you personally were witness to some of the most amazing Tetris play that.
Oh my God.
My brother.
That was like when I started listening to your broadcast, I was like, I can't believe he hasn't. It took you like 8 episodes before you mentioned the fact that your brother held a world record in Tetris. I was so shocked.
Yeah, and I mean, you see all these. Yeah, there's dozens of different Tetris games out there. There's dozens of different world records, and what does it really mean? But if my brother were in his prime of Tetris today, I firmly believe he could be making triple-digit numbers or whatever, 6 figures in playing Tetris. Like he just doesn't have the time to commit anymore, but he has the brain power. That's the thing. Not just anybody could pick up the paddle and get themselves to the point that Jeremy would get himself to. I mean, and
the first thing I saw with Jeremy is we lived together in college for 3 years. He was a year ahead of me, so he graduated first. But I remember my freshman year, he was into Jezball. Jezball was, I mean, there's a million different versions of it now on phones, but it's the whole concept of there's a ball or multiple balls bouncing around the screen, and you create a line that sections them off and try to get them into their own little spaces and stuff like that. And so he would play that game, and he would play it at such blinding speeds. I think he like beat the game. Like he got it's one of those games that like will keep going over and over. But I think once you hit like level 50, the game cannot get any faster. He got to level 50 and he's like, oh yeah, I guess I'm done with this. It's not going to get any harder.
Yeah, he's a true genius. Like he's not an idiot savant. He's got multiple skill sets. He's just a highly intelligent person. And it's I'm not just saying that because he's my brother. He truly is above average intelligence. It's exceptional. And so when that kind of stuff, I don't think just boils down to intelligence. It's that kind of the speed factor. That's what's brilliant about that. He's like, he's got the flash thing where he can understand things at super incredible speeds. Well, that's the thing. I think his brain works faster than my thought process is, I would say, slow and meticulous, but chaotic. Chaotic evil. Yeah. It's it goes all over the place, but when I need to think, like I have to stop and breathe to think something through. So like when I'm playing a game and guys come running around the corner, a lot of times I have a panic moment, and I try to get around those things by lowering my I try to get calm and reduce like my stress, but I watch my son play. Say it. You smoke weed. That's fine. You can say it. No, not these days. But working for the government. But yeah, like I want to. If I don't have the panic moment, I think it's confidence. Maybe I don't know. But like I'll take Fortnite for example. I know you don't play that game, but say you got a team pushing you and you're by yourself and there's 4 guys coming at you. If you're calm, cool, and collected, you can take those 4 guys out. You can anticipate their moves.
Right.
You can stop them. You can at least prolong the engagement, right? And you might lose because of pressure, but at the same time, you're not panicking and all that. So when I watch streamers play this particular game, they see 4 guys coming at them and they're like, oh, it's easy pickings. Let's get them. Boom, 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 boom.
Right.
And then they just move on. It's like they know beforehand that they're going to make it through that. And so when I have 4 guys press me, I panic. I have a mini panic attack and I'm like, oh shit, whoa, what's going on? Oh, you know, and the building is going on. And Jeremy is the opposite. Like when things get crazy like that, it's when he excels. I think if he were to take the time to play games like Call of Duty or Fortnite or any of these types of things where you have reaction time is key, I think he would be phenomenal. And Tetris is a great example of that because he would have Tetris going so fast that you just physically couldn't understand it if you're looking at it. It's like, what is going on here? But somehow he was gauged, locked in. And I mean, if you've ever seen anybody play, what is it, Through the Fire and the Flame on Rock Band or Guitar Hero on expert mode, and you're like, how are they hitting every note and like they're locked in? He was 10 times better than that. Like the level of Tetris play that he did was faster paced by a level of 10 times, in my opinion, than expert level Through the Fire and the Flame. What do you say?
In our suite in college, we had a suite his senior year, and so there was a couch, big TV set up, and he would play Tetris, and you would walk into the suite, and there would be 10 people sitting on that couch and the chairs, and sitting on the back of the couch, and like pasted around the floor, watching him play Tetris. And then somebody would walk in and go, what's everybody doing sitting around watching a guy play Tetris? Like, don't you guys have something better to do? And like 10 minutes later, they would be sitting on the floor, jaw, open, watching him play Tetris. You would just go into a trance because
it was amazing.
I honestly, without having to do just watching him, trying to conceptualize in my head what he's doing, like seeing a piece pop out and trying to say, okay, where does he need to put it and how does he need to turn it? I couldn't think that fast, and he was doing it.
Yeah.
And that's what was so ridiculous about how fast he would go.
Yeah, man. It made me so proud. There was a moment, and I can't get into too many details. We had my brother and I were out drinking at a party. We didn't know I couldn't even tell you where we were at, somewhere in Boston. And long story short, we went outside of the apartment and we were getting our wits about us. And the guy who owned the place or rented the place came outside and wanted to start beef with Jeremy. And Jeremy was in no place to, respond. And so I walked up to this huge dude and I was like, do you know who the fuck you think you're talking to? He's like, what? I said, that is the #1 Tetris player in the goddamn world. And he was like, whoa, I'm sorry. He immediately changed his personality, like melted. And Jeremy's like, yeah, it's cool, man. It's all good. It's so like everybody in this world knows what Tetris is. And the reason we're diving in so deep is because the most important Tetris game, in my opinion, in a long, long time is coming out on November 9th, and it's Tetris Effect. And the creator of Lumens, and he's done a couple of other things, Rez, and a few other games that have a lot of particles and a lot of really trippy, mesmerizing type gameplay. Lumens, if you recall, is like a Tetris clone. The story goes that the guy was trying to license being able to make a Tetris game with music. He really wanted to do a music-based Tetris game where the game pieces and stuff influence the world around you, kind of like Lumens did. Lumens had as you played, the music got faster and the environments changed based off of the explosions and stuff when you collapse the blocks and all that. Well, fast forward, 15 years or so, and he gets the license to do it, and the power of the PlayStation 4 and the newer consoles and the better graphics on the PCs, and virtual reality. So this is the first ever virtual reality or flat screen Tetris game.
I can't even imagine Tetris in virtual reality.
Well,
what would that be like?
That's the thing, right? So everybody who's played it, all the developers who went to E3 and tried the demo or whatever, people are saying it's just outside of this world. Now there's a few virtual reality experiences or games so far that make me feel out of this world. And so this one is something that really, really excites me. And I love the game of Tetris, but I just want to see Jeremy play this game in virtual reality.
Oh my God.
That's what I want to see. I want to see what people can do in this game. And there's a couple of different things. Like when you get virtual reality, there's free experiences that you can download, like the Joshua Bell experience, where you're sitting there and watching a guy play a piano and you feel like you're in the room with him. And if it's done right, the experience feels real to life. Like you can download Paul McCartney live, right? And you get put on stage with Paul McCartney, but there's just something off about it.
Wow.
This is on your cell phone, by the way. Like you could do this right now.
Okay.
And you could get a Google Cardboard or whatever, and you could do it. But there's something about that experience that you're just kind of looking through your cell phone at this cool thing. It is 3D, it is virtual, but you move around based off of where you're at in the song. Like you don't get to pick or anything. It's just, oh, now you're over by the piano, oh, now you're in front of the crowd. And so it's when you have these experiences get a little bit stronger and a little bit better, you start to lose yourself. So the Chainsmokers, I think it's the Chainsmokers VR experience. They had one where they built their song into like you could react with the world based on what you looked at. So you're going down a highway in this virtual world while the song is playing, and it's a very trippy world. And like if you look at the telephone poles, they kind of react and move and sway, or you can look up at the sky and the clouds kind of, I might be butchering it, but like, yeah, things happen.
Interesting.
As you're in there. Nothing significant, nothing major, but then you can choose your path by where you look. So you could go down the red lane or the blue lane, and you can take the blue and you get a little bit different experience, but the music goes along with it, and it brings your feelings, it pulls your feelings into the experience. And so it's a more powerful thing than just kind of being present at something that's being filmed. Well, Tetris, from what they're saying, is like, dare I say, orgasmic or whatever. Like people are saying this is just such a crazy experience that you have to play it to truly understand it. And so, who knows? Maybe that's all hype. Maybe it's all marketing. But I've already pre-ordered it, and with the pre-order came some of the songs. I'm gonna play a little bit of the one that came from the commercial here.
Okay.
And if you can hear it, hopefully you can.
I can, yeah.
This is one of the songs. It was the preview for the game, so if you search for it, and it's just kind of a pretty powerful song, but this is what's going on while you're playing Tetris.
That is very powerful.
So I don't know how much I can play without getting like banned or whatever. But so anyways,
That's a good point. Yeah.
so the audio is like, it brings you in, it's done. And there's some actual vocals and stuff that go along with it. But I guess the song plays as long as you're in the level on like this somehow trancy loop, and then it builds up as you play, and you can hear like the beat and stuff like that. So you're playing to the beat, and you're eliminating blocks to the beat, which they got the number one Tetris player in the world for classic Tetris, like the Nintendo 8-bit version of Tetris, which each of the games have different play styles and things. So on that particular one, it's a specific guy, and he got to play. He doesn't like any of the newer games because he's used to playing that classic version. But he played virtual reality Tetris, and again, I don't know if this was a marketing thing or not. Some people felt like it was, but he said it was out of this world. He was like, I want to do it again. And he was like, he could play better than if you were playing on a flat screen. He tried it both. And so it was better, and he was more capable of doing better within the virtual environment because you can see things coming and you can feel it. So I don't know. We'll see. We have a couple of weeks left.
I want to see Jeremy play this so bad. Can you make that happen and video it and do some sort of a YouTube video of him playing?
Absolutely. Well, I'm trying to get him down here to Florida. I talked to Gina and trying to make something happen for early next year. But who knows? Maybe I'll get up to Maryland or I'm sorry, New Hampshire. I gotta get up there and see my dad and all that. But yeah, I'm gonna make that happen. Whether it's this year or early next year, I'll figure something out and videotape it because he doesn't get the time or he doesn't have all the newer systems and stuff. But I think Tetris is Tetris, right? He'll be able to play it no matter what controller he's holding. And so I think the audience would like to see that. I'll put that up on YouTube when I do have.
I would absolutely love to see that. Even if he's lost a step, even if he's lost 10 steps since college, he still plays better than I think most of the world.
Yeah, I agree. So if you haven't checked it out, go to YouTube, just type in Tetris Effect, watch the trailer. It has that song in it. What do they call it? When they released it or like they teased it at E3, I think it was, people didn't know what game was coming out. They knew it was going to be a VR game or at least a both 2D and VR type game. And so that was the beginning and people were like, what is this? And then it was like a voiceover, a guy talking and that song was playing and all of a sudden you start seeing the blocks on the screen and you're like, you get those goosebumps. You're like, oh shit, this is Tetris. Well, one thing with virtual reality, especially PlayStation virtual reality, which is where I primarily do my playing, is that there's only a couple of really, really high quality AAA titles. There's a lot of games, there's a lot of good games, but when I say AAA, I mean a household name game, like Skyrim. Skyrim did very well. Skyrim plays very well in virtual reality. So when that came, it was a big boost to the virtual reality world. Tetris, I think, is going to...
And Fallout 4, don't forget they did Fallout 4 as well.
They did, not on PlayStation, but it's on the regular PC. I guess that had some issues too, but even still, like that world, Bethesda's getting into it, trying to make that kind of stuff happen. I would like to see a Bioshock virtual reality.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much virtual reality, if you've ever even tried it, but
I tried back, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, just when it was starting to become a thing that we could hope for. A friend of mine did. He had like the little goggles that you slip a phone into.
Okay, yeah.
And he showed me a bunch of things, and that's about as far into it. I didn't do anything with, being able to control what's going on. It's all I could do is turn my head and see things, and even that was so cool. And the coolest thing he showed me was a horror video.
Yep.
Where you're sitting in a wheelchair and they're pushing you around.
Yeah.
And that was like, I love horror. And, I popped the headphones in and I watched it for about 30 seconds. I took them off and I was like, man, this is so scary. I don't know if I can do this.
Well,
but
try
I had
Resident
to, so
Evil.
I put them back on and I watched the video and it was so cool.
Yeah.
Like that's more than anything else, what I'm excited about for when I do finally get VR is playing horror games.
Well, I think the key ingredient to virtual reality right now is horror games, and then you build around that. So there's a lot of different genres and things within virtual reality, and there's actually games that are kind of new to a genre of themselves because you couldn't do it without virtual reality. But they kind of fit the mold of a couple of other types of games. Well, then horror is special in virtual reality because they can do so many things based off of where you're looking and based off of the environment that you wouldn't normally get to do on a 2D game. So like Resident Evil, for example, you're literally walking through this house, and if you look under the table or something might happen, or it will not trigger certain things until you look there. So one of the things, one of the first demos I ever did, I think it was Rush of Blood, which is like you're on a track, like it's like a carnival track or something, but
yeah,
it's a shooter. The zombies come out and stuff, but you're going through crazy things. Well, you look left because you hear like a little girl or something giggling off to the side, right? But here's the thing, right? So say you're in a scary, like a haunted house, and you're walking through. Well, the zone you're in is your safe space, right? It's very small, but like if you were just to stand there and look down, that's safe, right? Because you know that you're not going to get killed by these people. You're in a haunted house, but it's still scary. You get jump scares and stuff. So you can look down, for example, to get away from all the craze, right? You can do the same thing in VR. You can kind of look down and put yourself in like, okay, I'm not looking up. I know this is just a game. I'm in my safe space, right? Well, then you hear the giggle, right? And you look over and there's nothing there. There's nothing there. You're like, oh shit, that's weird. Well, then you go back to your safe space and all of a sudden, boom, there's something in your safe space, right? It's something there where you're comfortable.
Oh,
and
that's so cool.
And it's like, they do that kind of stuff in virtual reality so good that you couldn't do that in VR. I mean, or in non-VR. You could, right? You could have it look left and then you come back and there's something there and you can get a little startle. But today I was playing a game in virtual reality, and it was which one? I was playing Operation Warcade, which I guess I'll just kind of talk about that a little bit. Operation Warcade is like another kind of thing that you couldn't do outside of VR. So do you remember the old arcade games where you'd walk up and you had a gun and it scrolled from right to left, and you just shoot the things on the screen, right, with the gun that's provided to you at the arcade?
Like Terminator 2.
Like Terminator 2 or Operation Wolf or something like that. Well, this game is Operation Warcade, where you are inside the arcade machine, so to speak. Like you walk up to the arcade machine and you are holding a gun, and you can use the aim controller, which is like the rifle. And the game is scrolling from right to left. And you can like lean out through the box. So you really feel like you're inside of the arcade machine, and you can lean out where the glass would be and kind of look left and look right, like you're looking out of a wall, like a door or something. And you can see these things. Now, the graphics aren't superb. They're not horrible, but they're a little grainy and stuff. And the anti-aliasing is pretty bad. So it's like, whatever, but you get over that pretty quick. The point of the game is just it's a point and shoot type thing, and tanks come by and you shoot them. The whole world is scrolling and you're just standing there shooting like you're at an arcade machine. And then there's moments where you can jump into like a first person point of view. I think that it was a cool concept, but it was like, it takes 2 seconds to pop in, takes 2 seconds to pop out of that, and it's at certain points within the levels. The levels are not long in themselves, maybe like a minute and a half, 2 minutes of side scrolling. So you get 2 experiences like that in the level. They kind of feel out of place. I would have liked to see a little bit longer versions of that. I thought it was cool. The game is by no means hard, at least where I'm at so far. But it was a clever use of virtual reality that, again, you couldn't do in 2D. And so I really think that while there's some challenges there with how the game looks, and it's definitely not a AAA title or anything, but you're talking $20 I think it's $20 for this game. And I did get a review copy to talk about this game for free. But even if I were to pay I was going to pay the $20 to try this game. And I thought it was cool. I thought it was a great concept. I'd like to see more. And I'm going to go back in and play it. I've already played about an hour of it. And I'm going to play more.
I'm scrolling through the image. I just did a search for it. I'm scrolling through the images to see some of the gameplay and stuff like that now. And these graphics don't bother me at all. But then again, my backlog is so bad right now that this is pretty much cutting edge graphics for like the games I've been playing. Like, because I'm playing games that are like 10 years old now because I haven't had a chance to play them yet.
I'm looking at probably these same images you're looking at. You have to remember that when you're in the headset. Do you know what I've
been playing for the past 2 months? Baldur's Gate.
Oh my God.
It came out back in the 90s.
Well, the graphics on these images that I'm seeing on Google search are by no means the graphics you see in your headset. The headset does not. So the way a virtual reality headset today works, at least the PlayStation, is you get 1080p resolution, but it's because each eye is 540p and it combines the image in your brain. So you're getting 1080p, but if you close one eye, it's 540. Close the other eye, it's 540. It's a combined 540.
That seems like that's some fuzzy math right there.
It is, but it works. Technically, it is. I mean, that's your brain's doing the math for it rather than the computation happening within the. But at the same time,
but I mean, like that's like saying like, oh, I got a TV and it's like 4 billion pixels and stuff like that, and you're like, well, no, it's not. It's like, well, my eyes see everything so clearly that technically there's maybe only 2 pixels on the screen, but your eyes are seeing that divided into billions of pixels.
Very
like
true.
You can't tell me that I'm getting 1080, but my eyes have to do the math for you.
That is true. I ended up getting a device for like a virtual. I guess you can't call it virtual. It's Windows mixed reality headset. So it's in my opinion though, and for all intents and purposes, it's a virtual reality headset for the PC. And it was like $140 refurbished. The thing came impeccable quality. There were some people who had issues like getting bad damaged units and stuff. I did not. Got both controllers that came along with it. I think it was like a $400 unit that I got for really cheap. And it has 1440 by 1440 resolution in the eyes. And I think I can tell a difference, but the difference between that and the PlayStation's resolution is it's like PlayStation, you have more field of vision, whereas on this particular headset, it's like a pinhole. You have to get it perfect on your head, and then everything's clear. But if it adjusts a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, you have to readjust it. Where the PlayStation, I thought when I first put it on that it was a tight window, but when you try a different headset, you realize, okay, so it's not so bad. It could be worse. But once you get that sweet spot and once you get in the zone in some of these games, you don't even realize it. And you do kind of forget that you're wearing the headset. You do kind of forget that you're sitting in your living room or your bedroom or whatever playing. Operation Warcade, I kind of just melded into what I was doing. I had a lot of fun with it. And so when you come out of the level, you're looking at the arcade machine and there's people around inside the level. And this is what I was getting at, what segued here. And literally standing just to the left of the arcade machine was a kind of a bad looking human. Didn't look real by any means. I knew it was a computer, but it startled me because it was just there standing to the left of me. And yes, I knew I was in virtual reality, but for a second I was like, who the fuck is in my bedroom?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Just for a split second. It took me, a millisecond to get my wits, but it happened. It was like, boom, oh my God, what is this guy doing here? And it's okay, it's just a computer player. So if you can get that feeling, it makes it a little bit more special. And so the fact that Operation Warcade did that for me, I thought it was cool. I'm going to play some more. Actually, it's the kind of game I do like to just jump in because you can play a level or two and you don't have to commit a whole lot of time. And so you collect tickets. The more tickets you collect, like each level has special things like kill 3 guys with a grenade and you'll get a couple extra tickets. So you collect more tickets, you can move further in the game. I've gotten, but like I said, an hour and a half in. I don't know how much longer I have. Probably not a ton, but it's fun. I'm going to play some more, and I would probably play another version of this, like a cleaned up, longer levels, a little bit better graphics. I would definitely play the hell out of that. So Operation Warcade, I don't have a score yet for it. I'm going to write up a written review on the website, and when I do, I'll give it. But I don't want to just start blasting everything with 80s and 90s. I think those are reserved for the best of the best. So this will probably fall somewhere in the 70s. I do still think that's a good score, 7 dot something. If you look at it at like a Metacritic type review, it's definitely for me not the best game I've ever played, but I enjoyed it. So with that, it'll get a relative rating. I want to quickly segue into the other game that I committed to reviewing, and that is Preta Vendetta Rising.
Okay.
Now, this game, Darrin, you would play it, and I know you would play it. But here's the thing, okay? This is kind of a tragic story. So I heard about this game when it first got announced, and you see the graphics, or at least what they represent as graphics for the game in the marketing materials, and you see the preview, whatever, and you're like, okay, that looks good, but once we get into the VR world, I know it'll be different. And so it launched, I think it launched at like $30 or something. And the problem I think that this game had out of the gate was they launched it with defects. There was a couple of things that there was like a noise that, like a hum, a person, like an audio file within the game of one of the enemies was on loop. Like,
just all the time in the game?
Yeah. So some people ran into that, and it was terrible. It was kind of funny, like hearing people talk about it, but at the same time, if it's there in the game, I wouldn't want to play the game until they fixed it. So they did fix that. But they came and put a patch in to fix some of the initial issues, and they got the game cleaned up. And that seems to be the par for the course on a lot of these games, where they have a launch window and they commit to it rather than delaying it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I've worked on a lot of projects and a lot of project teams, and the best thing to do is to solidify your product. Now, when Walmart came along and said to T-Mobile, no, we're moving forward whether there's defects or not, because we get money regardless. We don't care if your customers are unhappy. We're paying you $1 billion. Then you move forward with defects, right? Because the company that has all the money says so. But when you have a passion project like this game right here, Preta Vendetta Rising, and you want it to be launching with the best of the best that you can. So you delay it if you have to, even if it means running short of money or whatever.
I can tell you, working in the entertainment industry, I can tell you exactly why they keep these deadlines, even if the game's broken.
Why is that?
So what happens is, at some point in the process, somebody's like, okay, so from a purely financial standpoint, they say, we're going to put this much money into the game, based on the idea that it will release on this date. And they make a budget, and part of that budget is all of these people that are working on the game that need to be paid. It's a profitability thing. They have to release on this date.
That's the funny thing, though, is that this game here,
if they push it 2 months, then they've got to pay every crew member who's working on that game for an extra 2 months. And the profitability of the game is going to drop because of that. So they hire people on the game and say, hey, if I hire you, if I put you in this game, can you deliver your piece of this project by this date? And everybody says yes, because they want a job. So they make promises that they necessarily can't keep. And then when it comes down to it, it may say, okay, well, we're gonna ruin our profitability if we release a bad game, so we should delay it. But the problem at that point is, if they want to get the maximum amount of profitability, there's marketing that goes into it. They're telling people, okay, here's the date. We've already, we've got cutouts in all the game stops and stuff like that with this date on it. So at that point, it becomes impossible to change. By the time they realize they've made a mistake, they're stuck with that date.
Let me get your opinion here, though. So when you look at this, right? So this is a little bit of a different story, right? This is a solely digital game. So there's no, when you're delivering, you're just delivering on a digital commitment. Like, hey, this is the day it's going to launch. So maybe there's some deals with Sony or something that you have to commit to. But I know that many companies have delayed games without too many problems. But this is a small team. I think it was a couple of people, 2 or 3. And in talking with the developer, it was more of a passion project. Like they put a lot of their money, all of their money into it. So I'm looking at the graphics right now. I'm looking at like images and stuff like that. This cannot be a couple person game. Like this looks way too high quality for that. Unless they've been doing it for 15 years. They've been doing it for a while. But here's the crazy thing, right? So I saw these images like you're looking at, and I was like, okay, so what's it going to really look like in VR? This game got shit reviews. People trashed it. They laughed at it. And it just got cast aside. And then the company, the creator, the owner of the game, went on Reddit and he did an AMA on the PSVR forum, and he spilled his guts, and it was like the saddest thing I ever read. He was like, hey, look, he just came right out and he's like, I wanted this game to be revolutionary. I wanted this game to be the thing that everybody talked about. And I put years of my life into this game, and we have sold less than 2,000 copies, and I've gone bankrupt, and we can't put any more time and any more money into this game because everyone's leaving me and blah, 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 right? He basically just spilled his guts and committed to doing one more patch. He was like, I'm going to try to get another patch by the end of the summer, but to be honest, I don't think it's going to happen, so tear me apart. And everyone, there was people like, this game sucks, or this game's great, or I'd love to try it, but I'm not going to pay $30 for it. And he was like, well, do whatever you can. And like, it was sad reading this guy's AMA.
Oh, yeah.
So fast forward a couple months or a year, right? And now I'm doing the podcast. So I reached out to the developer, the company, and I said, hey, this is a game that's been on my radar. I know that you said that you were going to do that patch. Have you ever done the patch? If you'd have, I'm looking, I'm considering going to get the game and play it. And he replied, and he was like, look, I'm going to be honest with you. After I did that AMA, our company got bought out and we were bankrupt. We had no choice but to just give all of our time and commitment to this new company. We're basically just doing like cleanup code work for some German tech company. And he doesn't get to work on the game. He's not allowed to work on the game. Or if he does, it's like on his own time. And so he hasn't put any time into it because it's not going to make him any more money, right? The game has gone through its life cycle pretty much. It's almost 2 years old, and people aren't going to go buying it. Not for $20-$30. If this game went on sale for $10 and it included a patch that fixed a couple of the issues, this could be one of the best games on the PlayStation VR. And I'm going to commit to that. Here's what's crazy about it, at least from my opinion, right? So if you look at the graphics, especially in like Google, if you just go to Google Images or something.
Yep, so I'm doing that now.
They have three characters. You have a chick with a whip sword, like kind of like a Castlevania type thing where the sword can extend. And then you have a little girl who's like the mage, I guess. And then you have the two-handed giant sword warrior dude. And each one has their own different types of gameplay, entirely different types of gameplay. And it's not a button masher, but it's a button masher. So you have 3 buttons, at least on the console. I know that this is also on the PC VR, so I'm going to go at this from the PlayStation point of view. So you have square, triangle, and circle are your 3 buttons that can do your special moves. And then you have X, which X is your sword or whatever. You're swinging that. You're firing your magic missiles or whatever. And in like a standard dungeon crawler, the enemies pop up from under the ground. They crawl out of the ground or whatever, and they come out at you, and you have to navigate your way through these dungeons. You have to kill the enemies and collect some of the items that they drop. And you have to go through them to earn, I guess, resources. So at the end of every level or quest or whatever, you get resources. And if you do the special things like kill the special thing or eliminate all the Pretas, all the bad guys, 100% of them, you'll get a bonus at the end. And so the point is you have to replay these levels to get the resources that you need. And for some reason, they set this game up to have ridiculous levels of resources that you need to complete the game. And so what you end up doing is you grind. So they say it's like a 50-hour game. As the developer said, it's like 50 hours to complete this game. But it's not, right? You're playing the same levels. Now, I played about an hour and a half to 2 hours of this afternoon. I absolutely dug it. I am not one to gripe too much about grinds. I'm okay with it. I played a lot of Shadowbane. I played a lot of Fortnite. Yeah. I play a lot of these games where you're just sitting there with a pickaxe or whatever, and you're grinding. I'm okay with that, as long as the gameplay is fun and enjoyable. But it was funny because I thought when they were saying in some of the reviews I read that like you go through these dungeons and you have to replay them. Well, not only do you have to go back into the dungeon to replay them to get more resources so that you can like upgrade your armor and stuff, and it's extensive. It's like I went in and I got just enough resources to touch the bottom of the barrel and to fill the barrel, I probably need to go through it 15 times. Right.
Wow.
Now, inside the dungeon, I went through the dungeon and I'm going through, and you get to the end and you hit a teleport portal, and then you go to another area, like another zone within the dungeon, and you walk through and you fight the enemies, and you get to the end, and then you find another portal. Well, I was going through this one, I think it was like level 3 or 4 of quest line 1, story 1. And I was like, well, the one thing at this point, the one thing I have to say is that the game seems, the area seems a little repetitive, but like it's still fun. I'm having fun with the mechanics and everything. The graphics are phenomenal. They really are as good as you see there. They look crisp.
They look great. Yeah.
They're so good. And I'll get into that in just another second, because there's some cool concepts there with that. But so, then I realized there's 2 portals. It's the same level, and I'm going through it again and again and again until I collect all the items I need to complete that level. It's not like beginning to end, and once you get to the end, you're done. It's these enemies drop things, and you cannot get to the end of you can't leave the level until you've collected, say, 7 glowing orbs. And so you go through and you get 3 glowing orbs, and then you have to go through it again, and you get 3 more, and you have to go through it again, and you get a 7th one. It's like that. It didn't hit me that I was doing that until like the 3rd way through. I thought I was just going through the same looking dungeon, and I realized, oh shit, this is just a loop. It didn't take away from the game yet, right? In the first couple of hours of playing it, I was still ready to play more. I didn't sit there and go, oh, this is stupid. It felt fun. It felt like I had a mission to complete, but I could not imagine playing 50 hours of that. Like, if you say, hey, commit 50 hours to this game, but it's really 20 hours, and 30 hours of it's going to be replaying the same shit over and over just to have enough things. Well, that was the major gripe. And people were saying, hey, if you just fix that, like, make it less of a grind, keep the grind, but make it less. Like, give us more resources or make it fat. And so he could not go in an ample amount of time to change the game so that it reduced the length in that manner. And so he was never able to do it. And he told me he couldn't make that patch a reality. He didn't have the resources to do so, and it's never going to happen. So the game is what it is.
That's so brilliant. You think it's how much money and how much time and years they must have spent putting this game together. And it's like, now they've got it out there, and people are like, oh, all you got to do is do this and it'll be a great game. And they can't do that.
Yeah.
And they just gotta watch it die on the vine. It's terrible.
It sucks because it's like, I think Jed would play the hell out of this game. It looks good. So 2 things, right? The 3 characters. I don't know if there's more or whatever, but I think there's just these 3. It would be cool to see more characters and stuff, different play styles. So I think if they were to ever get it back into this game, add another character or 2. But they separated each character into their own game, which is weird. So you can, like, say you pick the little girl and you start playing with her. Well, you have to complete all the quests again for her.
Oh, wow.
And there's no reason for that other than it must be just how they segmented the game. Like, when you start, this is player 1, this is player 2, and this is player 3, and they all have their own quest lines. But it's the same exact quest lines. The story is the same exact story. So to me, rather than selecting your character to play this particular mission, you have to play one or the other or all 3. And they call that replayability, but it's not, because the mechanics are the same. You're hitting, but it's just different weapons. So I would love to be able to swap based off of how I want to play. Like, I played with the 2-handed sword guy, and I'm more of a mage type player, so I switched over to the mage type player, and I had to redo all those levels, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, okay, that was kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Luckily, it wasn't hard, but at the same time, it's 20-30 minutes, and you're like, okay, well, I've already just committed a half an hour just by switching characters to, I like this other character better now. But I want to play the 3rd character just to see what they're like. What if I like them even better? Now I have to do all those missions again. So I think that they need to, or they could have fixed that. I think that brings the score down a little bit. But one of the cool things is the different angles of view when you're playing. So you get into the game, and you can have a first person or over the shoulder, or what do they call it, 3rd person. And then there's like a one where you're set back, and it almost looks like you're playing a tabletop game.
Interesting.
And that's the view I preferred the most. Like, I didn't like the first person view as much. I play enough of those games. I think that though the graphics looked so cool when I was zoomed out the most I could, where you're kind of looking down and it's almost like you're playing real live D&D or something. Your character's running around, you're swinging your sword and everything, and you can see the perspective, but then you can literally look around the world like you're the god hovering above it almost, and you can see the whole map, right? So when you're in the first person perspective, you can see what's in front of you. Well, now when you pull yourself back, not just third person, but like, 100 feet in the air, not 100, but 20 feet in the air behind the character, and you can literally turn your head all the way around 360 and you can see where you came from. You can see where you're going. You can see over the little mountain, over the hill. You can see the bad guys down on the other end of the map. And so it just gives this cool perspective that you can't get outside of VR. And it felt fun to play from that perspective. Like I said, it's like a tabletop game almost. And I loved it from that end. I am actually going to play it. I'm going to pick this game through until I get bored of it. I did not get bored of it yet. Same with Operation Warcade. While it didn't get great reviews, for some reason, it's better than I expected. I guess maybe going into it knowing that there was some challenges, knowing some of the heart-wrenching story behind the developer. But that's not why I want to give it a good review score. I was ready to trash this game if it sucked. It doesn't suck. I'm so surprised that this game didn't get more traction, because not only does the quality of graphics look good, but the gameplay and the mechanics are fun, and the story isn't horrible. I've seen so much worse stories that that did way better. So anyways.
And you know what? In a world where you can download, a million different video games every day, I can see this getting swept under the rug. But VR is still kind of an open medium. There's not a glut of games out there. So you'd think something like this that's got some things going for it would pull at least a little bit of a following.
Yeah, the only thing I can imagine...
What did they say? It's like 2,000 people bought the game?
Yeah, this was a year ago.
Okay.
And it's never really been on this major... It's never hit the sales. I think what happened, and this is just a thought, not even an opinion, a thought. There was probably some inner issues amongst the team. There was probably a guy who was like, I ain't working on this anymore. I'm done. And he was probably the guy who knew how to do a specific thing. Or maybe they were just sad, right? Maybe they thought it was going to be better. Maybe it was going to be better.
No,
received.
I mean, I can tell you exactly what it was, because Joe actually went through a thing where after he finished working for Carbine on WildStar, he decided to start his own game company. And what it really boiled down to was they had some really, really fun stuff in the pipe. I played a lot of the betas of the stuff they were doing, and it was going to be so cool, like some really fun stuff, VR games and stuff like that. And it was going to be really good. But it really all comes down to they needed to find the right investor to keep them going. And they had a team, I think, of about 5 people working on stuff, and everybody was super dedicated and they're doing a great job. But there came a point after several months of not being able to lock down the right investor, where it's like, okay, well, we've burned through all of our starting money, and so anybody that wants to keep working on the game has to do it for free. And everybody else, this team of 5 people, they were like, well, I need to pay my rent. And so they went off and they got other jobs, and he had to go off. And I mean, luckily he jumped from that to Blizzard. So he's doing just fine right now.
Yeah. But you're making a complete sense. You got to move on because you have to. Yeah. Like this guy said, they moved on to just supporting some German company, cleaning up code. Yeah. It's like, this guy has skill set, and this could have been, maybe it was the name. Maybe the name itself just doesn't lash out at people. There was definitely very little marketing there was no major buzz about this game. And so I think that goes along with it too. I mean, if you see, for example, this game called Moss, right? This little mouse, and it came out around the same time as this, and Moss got reviews that were beyond good. Like, this is the best game ever, and blah, blah, blah. I played the demo of Moss. It was cool. It was cute. It was fun. And one day I will play the game, but it's never been like, I have to play that game. And it's a similar style. Like, you're walking through looking from above, and you command like what happens on the ground. You can move things with your wand or whatever to like allow the mouse to make it through to the next level. So it's a little bit more puzzly than this game is. But at the same time, it's a crawler, right? You're crawling through the level. And but that game, not only did the graphics are on par, right? Both of these games had really good graphics in their own right, but that game company had marketing. They pushed it. They were on Reddit. They were on YouTube. They were getting on Facebook. And every time you went on, if you had any of those interests in your world, you're seeing moss. And so while to me it wasn't the most revolutionary game in the world, you would have thought it was. Just like Beat Saber, that's another one coming out for PlayStation VR. It's already out for PC VR. And if you've seen it, it's Guitar Hero, but instead of Guitar Hero, you have lightsabers. Have you seen this?
I have seen that, yes. That looks super fun.
Not only is it super fun, it is a workout. It is crazy. You're burning calories playing that game. I guess they said it's like better than tennis for real. And so I got it. I have it for the PC, and Crystal and I have both played it, and it's really, really fun. It is like, that's the kind of game where if you have a bunch of people over, everyone tries it. That's the one. And just like Guitar Hero, you can play it for hours if you want, or you can play it for a song or two. So, but that game as well, like their marketing is really good. It's not even a big game. It's like 19 megs, right? It's tiny, but their marketing team is out there telling everyone this is it. This is the next game. This is the, buy it, rent it, or, play it. It's on Facebook feeds. They put out the videos that are short and sweet, and they pay the money. That's the key thing. They're paying the money for the marketing. Well, Preta Vendetta Rising, they probably were like me with this podcast. I don't have the money to pay to market it. I want
if they only sold 2,000 units, the first thing I'm thinking of is if this sold 50,000 units and the word of mouth was not good enough to continue it, that makes sense to me. But if it only sold 2,000 units, the problem is marketing. They didn't have any money to put in marketing, so no one knew about it.
Or not only is it not about money, it's probably more in terms like the guys who built this thing are probably just developers and not marketing people. So it might not even be about money. They might have completely just not considered what they really needed to get into there. I mean, who knows what it was? I hope for some reason that this game gets like a deal. I think if it were to hit $10, or if it were to be like a PS Plus exclusive, like free for the month or something, it would hit. People would be like, where did this game come from? Why didn't I know this game existed? Right. And they would buy it and they'd tell people about it, and then that company could make a little cash back or something. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that company's gonna be able to make another version of this. I don't know. I hope.
I think he's stuck. It's a terrible situation, but I don't think he's going to be able to do anything with it.
So that's
unless this podcast gets so huge,
imagine
on this episode that you kickstart sales for that game.
I hope so. That would be Joe would be pissed, but hey, sorry, Joe. You snooze, you lose, pal. Not just kidding. Seriously though, I don't know what it takes. Like, I've been talking on forums and stuff, at podcast forums, and trying to talk to people about like, what do you really need to do? Like, if I'm going to spend money, where should I spend money? I put money into Facebook, and some guy said, it was like the best analogy. They said Facebook is just like a cocaine dealer. They're going to give you your first hit free, and then they're going to charge you for your second hit or your third hit. And then it's never going to be as good as the first time. So when I first posted this podcast on my Facebook page, I had hundreds of views on my first several podcasts every time I posted it. And I can see, I get for some reason on certain posts, I get a feedback report that tells me how much engagement it got. And so I can see that like my first couple of posts had 157 likes or whatever, right? Or it reached 280 people, like scrolled past it.
Right.
And so the first couple of posts, it was out there. It got pushed because I generally don't solicit on my Facebook page. I had a business page for that. So my Facebook page reached pretty much everyone on my friends list. And then all of a sudden, their algorithm says, well, this could be monetized. This could be something he should pay for. So I would post, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you could reach 2,000 people for $5. And I'm like, well, I have 1,000 people on my Facebook list for free. right? A lifetime of making friends and being nice to people. And about 25% of them want to click on what I got to say. So why the fuck do I have to pay for 2,000 people who have no idea who the hell I am? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what are we building here in our social network? And so anyways, they stop it. And then I can see it only hit 2 people. It only went on 2 people's feeds. And here's what's crazy, Darrin, is when I finally said, okay, let's see what happens when I pay for it. I put $15 in to see what I get. And you were one of the people who clicked on my link, on my ad.
Yeah.
And so why the hell are you getting my paid ad and not just seeing it on my fucking wall? Like,
right.
What the hell? You're my friend in Facebook. Why don't my friends get to see my content and they can
Why
block me?
Why do you have to pay $15 so your friends will see?
Yeah, and like, I only got like 6
yeah.
clicks, and I got I think 200 people saw my ad, but not the 20,000. They said $15 would get me like 20,000 views, and it was like 600, a couple hundred, right? Who do I call to say that's a false advertising? Nobody.
Hey, okay, I've got one for you. Why not make people who post minion memes, make them pay to get that on my wall?
Because there's a shit ton of those. Or what about all these political posts? Like, hey, you know what? If you want to share your political opinion, pay $5 and you can send this out.
Right.
No, my perfectly valid. I don't make money off of this podcast. I'm doing it as a hobby and I'm having fun and I'm reviewing some games. I get a couple of games for free, nothing substantial by any means. Trust me, I pay my fair share for my games. And I just want more people to listen because I enjoy doing this. And they're not letting me. I mean, I get my sisters, a couple of my sisters click like, you click like. Because I think if you actually go to the page, my Facebook page, and you subscribe that way, like if you go to the group page and you whatever, I think that is like the only way it may show up on your wall without me having to pay for it. But long-winded here, the point is, it's tough. It's really tough to advertise and market when you really don't know. That's not my forte. At one point it was. I had the t-shirt company and I knew what my target audience was, but just like Facebook did then, I made a lot of money off of the same things that got Facebook in a lot of trouble. I could pinpoint specific down to every, age, race, religion, all those things that they're not allowed to. I didn't know they were, but I could say, look, I want to share this risque thing with people who don't have religion on their profile. I don't want people who have religion on their profile to see my post because they're not going to click it, right? If they're religious, they're not going to go to this risque thing. This FU t-shirt or whatever. And so I can subtract them from it. And then I could say, okay, well, I don't want 17-year-olds. They're not going to buy it. So 23 to 27, all in, this major city, that major city, and that major city who have clicked like on this hand banana, specific hand banana.
Right.
Right. And then the people who have seen hand banana, who have clicked like on hand banana, all of a sudden the shirt shows up and they're like, I got to have that. I targeted these audiences so pristine, like so tight that I would spend $5 and I would get like 40 t-shirt sales. It was crazy. And then all of a sudden one day Facebook was like, we're changing the way we do algorithms. So you're going to have to do something different. Well, guess what? Everything was the same for me. I could go in and do all the customization, but I would spend my $5 and then all of a sudden I would get one sale. And I'd be like, what the hell's going on? Well, maybe the shirt, maybe it's the shirt. No, I could go see it didn't reach as many people. So then I would do tests and I set up these things and dude, they were having bot farms out in India and China. They were paying companies to basically steal our money. And this was proven by people who set up like trackers and IP traces and all that on their site. And guess what? There ain't nothing you can do about it. So you're paying money. Wow. So I stopped entirely advertising on Facebook years ago with my t-shirt company. And that was kind of the downfall of my t-shirt company because I didn't want to pay money for something that I knew wasn't going to reach the people it should. If this is the tool, it's kind of like saying, hey, buy that billboard down on 54 and there's 10,000 people that drive on that every hour on that road. So you're going to reach 10,000 people an hour. But that was just a lie. Because they, the second you bought that, they knew they were putting another road that was going to take half of that traffic onto a different route, and they wouldn't see your billboard. But you already locked in; you're already paying for it.
It's demoralizing when you can spend $50 a month on marketing for your company and make good sales off of that. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, you got to spend 500 now from here on out.
It's crazy. So,
but Facebook's got the monopoly. Like that's what everybody has.
Yeah, it is. And so right now we're at a point where between 30 and 50 people, every time I have a podcast, they listen to this podcast, which I think, I'm only a couple months in, considering I haven't paid any other than the $15, and considering it's got to be word of mouth and not much more, we're doing okay. And I'm hoping it grows. Just as everyone hears me say every week, like, share, subscribe, whatever you can to help out. I don't want to be Preta Vendetta Rising. I want to be
right.
Cream of the crop is the point.
Oh my God. It's all circular.
I try.
It's all circular. That's amazing. You've tied it all together.
I do. I go off on tangents. And like I said, my brain is like a spider web of things, but I have a purpose there. So, okay. We're an hour and a half in. I do have a couple of things. I know, right? It's easy. It's easy to talk on these things.
We should wrap it up because no one's going to want to listen to us ramble for an hour and a half.
Well,
we're gonna quickly knock out all the rest of the.
Yes, we're gonna quickly knock it out.
What's next? Next topic on the list.
So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna set up my next podcast because these are things I definitely need to talk to Joe about. Okay. So here's the thing. Joe is a huge Black Ops guy, right? Or a huge Call of Duty guy, right?
Never played it. Me never played it.
I love it, but I suck at it. I'm not that good. So but now I'm the best ever at it, which is weird. Not really, but I want to play with it. I think Call of Duty and games like that are better to play with people. So if you're playing, it doesn't matter if you suck. If you're having fun because you're playing with people you like to play with. So I have not been able to play the new one yet with anybody other than random people, and it's just not the same to me. So I'm going to wait to play that with Joe or whoever else has it that I know. But they did add the Battle Royale element. They did make some changes to how fast you can pick things up and stuff. I can't wait to hear his viewpoints on it because he was a little skeptical of the Battle Royale element of Call of Duty when it was announced. He loved it during the beta. I think they enhanced it even better now that it's launched. But that being said, the multiplayer game is awesome too. There's a bunch
and Battle Royale. That's pretty much just Fortnite mode, right?
Well, okay. So because I know you don't play Battle Royale games, so it really started with a couple of games like H1Z1 where it's like King of the Hill, right? You have 100 people on a map. Last man standing wins. There was a couple of different games that came out. PUBG is a big one that got launched, and then Fortnite was just a base building zombie defense game, and it was in the creation stage back in 2011. It took 7 years to launch, and it launched as a game called Save the World. Fortnite Save the World. There was no Battle Royale element to it. I don't know when they started developing the Battle Royale aspect, but the game was, in all intents and purposes, it was just like, hey, go collect resources, save the survivors, build bases, protect these things, and defend. And every round is different. It's like the round is over, you've gained your resources, you've got your stuff, you can upgrade your weapons, and then you move on to the next round, and you pick and choose what type of level you want to do. It's awesome. I love this. You would love Save the World.
So it sounds a lot like what's that zombie game? Killzone, Kill Room.
Oh, are you talking about DayZ?
No, I'm talking like it's like Kill Room or Killzone or something like that. I can't remember, but it's a shooter where every round more zombies come at you and you got to clear the round of zombies.
It's not like that though on this one. It's like a map, right? You have a map, you have a zone, Stonehenge or whatever, whatever the first round is. And you go to you pick, you have a story.
Killing Floor, that's the game I was thinking of.
Yeah, no, not like Killing Floor at all. So the way this works is it's kind of like a over the shoulder third person look, and you have objectives like, hey, you got to go kill 500 zombies. That might take you 4 rounds to do that. Or, hey, you have to rescue 35 survivors. That's going to take you multiple plays. And there's different types of games. There's like defend the base. There's deliver a bomb from point A to point B. And there's different maps, and they're kind of randomly generated. So you go in to the deliver the bomb, and it might be in a city map. So it's like a city where you're walking through the streets, and you destroy everything. You can break all the trees, you can break all the parking meters, the cars, and you get resources. Those resources allow you to build things on the fly. So you can build traps, guns, ammo, everything you need. You have to collect resources to build them. It's not hard to do. There's a destruction element that's actually really fun. So you can take down entire buildings with a pickaxe. So at the same time, as you get these resources, you can use them. So you can build a ramp, you can build a roof, you can build a wall, and you can build stairs. And then you can manipulate each of those things. So you can go into an edit mode where you can make the wall have a window, or you can make the wall an archway, or you can make the floor just one square with a edge around it, so that like the zombies can't get past it. Like you can make a lip on a lip on the floor. And so as you do these things and you build in your base, once you're done with your base, or
wouldn't
once you're
that be
done with,
great? Wouldn't that be great in a zombie movie like the next George Romero Land of the Dead type movie? It's like somebody just builds a lip on the floor and it's like, we're safe.
We're safe.
Finally,
The
from the
zombies can't get
zombies.
past. So yeah, but like, okay, so the rounds that you do, the turn-based rounds or not turn-based, but like the rounds that you jump into, they're about 10 to 20 minutes long. And everything you do in that round, all the resources you use go away. Everything you've collected in the round goes into your inventory. And you can upgrade all your stuff afterwards in the in-between game menus and stuff. But everything you've built is gone. That round is now done. And that, like deliver the bomb mission is complete. You've got your stuff and you move on to the next thing. Then they have a centralized base. There's one centralized base in each of the maps. Right now there's 4 maps. So you have a thing called a storm shield. And that's another element to the game where to progress further in the story of the game, you go to your storm shield, and that's like a static base. You build it up, you hit the button basically to signal you're ready, and then the zombies come in waves. And there's like 10 levels of storm shield that you go throughout each of the 4 maps. And so once you get to like level 10, it's 8 waves of, really high level zombies for that particular zone. And it can be very difficult, but you can get up to 3 other people, and then you can have survivors help you and stuff like that. So it's strategic, but in those ones, everything you build stays. And then the next time you come back, you have to repair everything that's broken. You have to rebuild your bases or upgrade everything and all that. So that's what the game was built upon, was this element of this base building thing. Now, all these other army type shooters like H1Z1 or PUBG is like Call of Duty or Battlefield, but on this massive landscape where you get dropped into a zone, and then something happens, like a circle appears and it condenses in on itself until everybody's forced into this one small space, and it's like last man standing wins.
Sorry about my cat in the background.
Oh, that's fine. It's fine. No, people love cats. It's all
going
good.
Crazy right now.
It's fine. Well, it's been 2 hours, so the cat's ready for some love. But
Right.
anyways, long story short, it forces the action, and it has a finite amount of time, because at one point or another, the storm closes in entirely and you're just taking damage, and the last man standing wins. So Fortnite, as they were doing this Save the World thing, and it's eventually still to this day going to be free to play, supposedly sometime in 2018. They never made it free to play. Right now, if you want to play Save the World, you have to pay like $19 to get in on the starter pack, which is still funny to me because this is the most profitable game in the history of all video games. And they still have early access when you open it up, which is just silly.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
And so they had a team of people start working on the battle royale aspect of the game, basically taking that base building and factoring it into you have an island, and you fly in. Basically, a bus goes across the island. You drop out on that bus between the beginning and the end point, wherever you want. You land wherever you want in the island, and then about a minute or 2 later, a circle appears, and you have to get to that circle before the storm closes in. And then another circle appears another minute within that circle. And then once that circle closes in, another circle, and it just keeps doing that randomly within the circle within a circle, until you're an arm's length away from your opponent, and they have the most, in my opinion, some of the most amazing esports. Because when you go play right now, you're playing against Jagger, you're playing against 4-year-olds, you're playing against talentless people who get lucky and you're playing against pros. They don't really have an environment for the pros to go to play on their own. So when you get the pros and you have 100 people in a round and they're all excellent at this game, you see some of the most amazing gameplay that you're just like Jeremy playing Tetris. You're like, how the fuck do these people know how to build these bases so fast and do the responses and all that stuff that they need? It's amazing to me. So I watch every Friday they have it. I recommend you checking it out there. You can actually go watch a replay. Just type in like Fall Skirmish, Fortnite Fall Skirmish, and you'll get a taste of what Fortnite really can be. And people are making millions off of this game, playing it. And just for an example, on Friday, there's this guy Vivid, and he is one of the winningest Fortnite players ever. And he's just a kid, just a guy, probably mid-20s or something, who jumped into a game and made his way to one of the paid games by winning. And he's so good, and he won like $250,000 or something, and like lost his mind. He's just a kid. All of a sudden he's like rich. And so then he came back the next week and won again, and everyone was like, holy shit, not only is he's good, not only is he won last week, now he's won this week, and now he's a regular.
He's consistently good, yeah. Consistently
good. So the other day, last week, somebody couldn't make it to the tournament, and he wasn't in this particular tournament, and he popped in, he was an alternate, came in, and he won $30,000 on a Friday. Like, didn't expect to play.
Wow.
And then 30 grand later, he's like, boom, there you go. So the game, if you're good, it's cool with esports because the opportunity is much more obtainable than it is to get into the NBA or NFL. Right now, it's growing market. It's obviously still hard, right? You have millions of people, but you're playing, the millions of people are children. They are people who suck at the game. So if you're halfway decent, if you can hold your own in any of these types of games, you have potential if you want to put the time and effort.
There are almost no 6-year-olds in the NFL right now.
No, almost.
So chances are, if you get in the NFL, you're pretty much going up against it's almost guaranteed to be pros, people that have played football before. But that's the thing with Fortnite is you may walk in and be somebody who's never played before, like me.
But then, so what's funny is I watched a tournament a couple months ago, and there was these two brothers who played, and one was like 14 and the other one was like 17, and they won 40 grand. So the potential to win that kind of money for these under 18s is there. Yep. Jagger plays this game and does, he gets very frustrated when he loses and stuff and gets shot. But for a 7-year-old to be able to go into that map and hold his own and pick a couple people off is amazing to me. It's like, it's amazing to me. He doesn't realize how amazing it really is. But, okay, so he's got
the Jeremy genes,
He's got the Jeremy gene. He does.
Yeah.
So I'm going to coach him until he makes millions, and then
there you go. That's the way to do it.
So with that, anyways, that's the Fortnite is separate in all these games because of the base building, and since they have this cornerstone of a market, I don't foresee any games jumping in and taking that aspect, because I think Fortnite would sue the fuck out of them. Say, hey, you're ripping us off. So all these other games are held to the constraints of regular battle royale, which is pick up your weapons as you land. Everyone starts off with nothing. You land. Yeah. If you land in the middle of a bunch of people, you're more risky. You might die faster. You might not get the loot, or you can land off in the middle of nowhere, but you have to run further probably to get to the center of the circle. So Call of Duty saw the success of Fortnite and some of these other battle royale games. They implemented it, and now what they did was they built a map, and then the multiplayer maps that are the Call of Duty style are built into this island. So you can go to the maps that are in the game, but they're on the island. And so you can enter and exit those maps. And they look a little bit different, but for the most part, it's the same buildings and everything like that. It's cool as hell. And it's fun. It's not Fortnite, but it's more Fortnite-y than PUBG. Then that game is, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it just has it's a more of a Call of Duty, which is, if you take Call of Duty and Battlefield and you put them side by side, they're both shooters. They're very similar styles of game, but Battlefield is like this pristine, realistic looking game. And Call of Duty is a warfare game that is a video game. The graphics still to this day are not as pristine and clean as like a Battlefield. So Call of Duty Battlefield Battle Royale just isn't as realistic looking as, say, a Battlefront, and they're coming out with their own version of Battle Royale. I can't wait to see what that's going to be, but we won't know more about that until beta starts or whatever it launches. I think that's next month too.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
I can't wait to talk to Joe a little bit more about that. My first impressions are just as the same as the beta. I enjoy it. It's Call of Duty. It's better than the last one so far. Who knows how long that'll last? Maybe it'll suck in a month, but I like it. I can always jump into Call of Duty and play the hell out of it. So, but there's still something drawing me back to Fortnite. I still enjoy that too. But then the big announcement that I can't wait to talk to Joe about is Borderlands 2 virtual reality. Did you ever play the Borderlands games?
Yeah, and I love Borderlands. Borderlands 2. Absolutely. They're fantastic games.
Me too. And Joe always talks about how that's his favorite game of all time, Borderlands 2. And so Joe, and you've listened to the podcast, so you know Joe is like, not anti-VR, but he's like, I'm not doing it. Well, all of a sudden, for the second anniversary birthday for Borderlands, or I'm sorry, for VR, Sony announced this Borderlands 2 is coming to VR. So I sent it to Joe, and he thought it was a joke. He's like, there's no way. And I said, no, dude, it's happening. Like, this is it. He's like, oh, shit. Guess I'm getting a VR for Christmas. And I honestly, stay tuned for Black Friday deals, because I think they got to come down to be cheap enough. This is the end of the life cycle for this generation of consoles. As crazy as it is, for some reason, it feels like we still got years to go. But in reality, PlayStation 3 was X number of years. PlayStation 4 is already getting close to the same length of life before we get to PlayStation 5. And same with Xbox. I know that there's talk about 2019 being the launch of the next series of consoles.
And they're going to be annual. That's totally going to be a thing. They're going to be like iPhones, where you get a new one every year.
Well, here's the thing on that, and I've done a little bit of research on this, is that these companies have to negotiate these deals. And at the beginning, those deals are bad for the companies. So they're actually losing money on the consoles and stuff, because they're trying to get cutting edge, and the cutting edge costs more. So if they want a specific microchip or something in there that does what they need, they lose money on the console, they make money on the game sales. And that's why the systems, like Sony is a publisher of games as well as the producer of the system. And they also launch. And
that's why governments were taking PlayStation 2s, I think. And they had such incredible hardware in the PlayStation 2s that they were just buying like 20 of them and making supercomputers out of them. Yeah, because they were selling them under the price of what the actual components would be.
Exactly. And so the PlayStation 5, in order for that to be significant in any way, shape, or form from the 4 Pro, I just don't know what that really looks like. In my opinion, being a VR fanboy, it's got to build on that VR component. We got to get better than 540p. It's got to be the 1440. We got to have 1440 resolution. It's got to be they got to work on motion sickness and things like that so that it can be more adopted, but it's also got to be baked in. I shouldn't have to have a second unit sitting next to my PlayStation that I plug the VR thing into. It's got to be all there.
Right.
And so
Oculus Go just came out, which is exactly that, isn't it?
It is, but it's not it can't sustain the same level of quality that the Oculus Rift and all these other, the full units are going to have more power. But the Go can do, it's a lightweight VR, and it's perfect for people who want to watch porn, to be honest. I think that's what it was built for, to be honest. They even gave you a controller for one hand when you got it. So
wow, that's amazing.
It's funny. The thing with like the next generation of consoles is it has to have backwards compatibility. I think that was a money grab.
Yes. If you're going to do it, the more you do these, you need to have backwards compatibility. Absolutely.
I mean, if they told me tomorrow that the PlayStation 5 is coming out on January 1st and it has 5 games, I would not buy it. If I couldn't play my entire library of PlayStation 4 games. And now with everything being digital, there's no reason it shouldn't be. It should be, let me get the new 5. Let me play all of the games on the 4 on the 5. It should be a system-wide, an account-wide, not a system-wide account. Same with Nintendo.
Can you imagine if you went into the Apple Store and you're like, I have the iPhone 8 and I'm ready to upgrade to the iPhone X. And they're like, okay, cool, great. Just so you know, you won't be able to play any of the app games that you played on the iPhone 8 on the new iPhone X. Can you imagine that?
They chalked it up to saying the hardware just couldn't handle all that. Well, I'm sorry, but I can put an emulator on my computer that can play almost every video. I can play PlayStation 3 games on my computer with an emulator. You can put that shit into the PlayStation 4. I mean, if some hacker can do it, you can do it. And so I know it's about the money. They want you to have to rebuy the game, or they want to force you to move on to the next generation and get rid of those old. They don't care if you're going to play those old games because the money's already
honestly
spent.
You know what, because we have the PlayStation 4, we don't play it very often, but I would say half of the games we have on PlayStation 4 are games that we used to own on other systems.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so it's got to be, anyways, we can go on, that's a whole other show, but Borderlands 2 is a game that already came out years ago, but it's going to be on VR. And it's redone in VR. It's not going to be multiplayer, so you're not going to have. Then that's an unfortunate thing. I hope that they change that, or I hope that they add it eventually. But it's going to be single player, and they're not going to incorporate the aim controller, which some people are bummed out about. But I'm okay with it because dual wielding is so key in Borderlands that you need the aim, the motion controllers, the two. The only problem I have with that is movement. Now, if you know, on the PlayStation Move controllers, there is no thumbsticks, so you can't navigate up and down, left and right like you would on a DualShock 4. So they have to take one of the buttons and bake in teleport, which you look, you hold down, and then you let go, and you port to where the circle shows up. I hate that. I personally hate that for anything that requires reaction and movement and things like gunfighting and stuff. I hate it. Some people like it. You get used to it. I don't want to get used to it. I think that's it's only temporary, because eventually they're going to have thumbsticks, because that's the best solution for video games. So the other alternative is to have a button exclusively used for when you hold it down, you move forward, and where you're looking is where you go. So if you look left and hold the button down, now you start walking that direction. That works, and it works in games like Skyrim and things like that. There's also other methods where you're tilting the controller moves you forward, tilting it back moves you backwards. That's okay as well, but you got to have the thumbsticks. I don't know what they're going to do in Borderlands. Probably a push button, probably a little bit of both. You probably can do either or, but we'll see how that incorporates into the game, because sometimes you do have to be ready to go and firefight a lot of people, and you got to be able to get out of there fast.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. But Joe, if you're listening, you better get yourself a goddamn PlayStation VR, because there's plenty of games like boxing games and stuff that I want to play against you. Also, if any listeners have VR, hit me up on either the Discord or tweet at us or whatever, and I'll play some games with the listeners, because that's always fun too.
Yeah, totally.
So what is
I mean, you've sold me. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I'm going to get VR.
Yeah, absolutely. You should.
I'm probably going to get the Oculus Rift to play on Steam.
Yeah, well, if you do, I know you have the PlayStation, right? If you do end up going that route, just the Rift is going to cost you $700-800, right? But the PlayStation VR full bundle is $400 or less, and there's almost the same amount of games. You're actually going to get a couple of extra exclusives on the PlayStation, but you might even get that bundle for $200 or $300 during Black Friday. So I think if you see that price point, it's worth it to jump in.
Yeah, I think everything's going down in price now. I think the last time I looked at Oculus Rift, it was about $400.
It is, but there's certain exclusive bundles that don't have all the peripherals you need.
Oh, I see.
At least
yeah, that makes
last
sense.
I looked, and that was just a couple months ago. But I was going to say, if you go PC, if you want, I'll send you over the link that I bought. It was like $160 or something for this, and it came with the 2 controllers. And if your computer's it's probably better than mine because you're an exclusive PC player. You could probably handle whatever VR games are out there right now. I
built my computer. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, so for if you just get this headset, you plug it into the HDMI port and a USB 3.0 port, and that's it. That's all you have. No box, no external thing. I'll send you a link afterwards.
So send me that. That sounds cool.
I mean, if you can find the refurbished one like I did for under $200, it's worth it. And then the Steam library is huge. And there's a lot of free stuff out there, like VR Worlds or whatever, where you can go and just it's really weird, but you can just walk around and chat with people who are dressed up as avatars. It's kind of like that movie but a very half-assed version of it. So, anyways, as we end up with the longest running episode ever of the Backlog Exposed.
Wow,
I'm okay.
look at that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it though, because we have a lot to talk about. There's even more to get into, but this was a special episode, and I think that we should have more of these. I know Joe isn't going to be able to do 2 episodes a week, and that's what I generally like to do. So we don't have to have 2-hour-long episodes, right? So
Right.
You're more than welcome to jump in. He can't do like the midweek ones, so hey, let's.
I mean, I unfortunately can't do midweek ones either. I can do like weekends maybe, and this up until I'm booked on this show till pretty much right up until Christmas, and it's going to be crazy. So it's going to kind of be like tonight, where you'll hit me up and say, "Hey, can you do it?" And it's like, "Yeah, I happen to be free right this second. Let's do it."
Perfect. Well, that works too, and I have a couple of other people that I play it. Like we had Andy and Jason and Jed doing on the round table we had. But
Nice.
It's fun to talk to you. So, and I think you provide good input. We'll get you back on.
I'm happy to do it. It's exciting. You told me you were starting the podcast, and I immediately went out and got a microphone, and I was like, I'm down for it. If I'm available, I'm totally down.
Man, it's crazy how our lives have just consumed us. But
yeah,
as a message to everybody who's listening, spend more time doing what you love. Try not to do as much that you don't love. So if you love work, put your life into it. But if you love playing video games, find some time, make some time, and hopefully you can hear us talk about it as you're driving to that work that you don't want to be doing, and you can pinpoint the time at the right places. Hopefully we can provide some feedback so that you find the right time to play the right
Don't
games.
do things that are gonna make your life harder for no reason, like have kids. Like it's make sure you're playing the video games. That's the important thing.
And if you do go that route with the kids, you have to wait like 6. Well, I mean, Wesley's 4, he's playing games, but you can't play games with Wesley like you would. Like right now I can jump in with Jagger and I can play and actually feel like I'm not babysitting him while I play. That took 7 years to get to that point, people. So think about that.
Well, I think that's you got to find a partner, somebody who you can be like, okay, you raise the kid from 0 to 6, and I'll just totally step back and let you run the show. I'll take them from 6 to 12. Then they're going to hit the teen years. You take them back. Yep. And then, once they're like an adult, I'll take them back in, because then they're going to be ready for competitive gaming.
And then they'll know I'm the guy who bought them all the games when they were kids, and then they'll love me.
Exactly.
Well, Darrin, it's always a pleasure. And, again, like I said, we'll have you back on. Thank you for spending a couple hours with me. It's great to catch up.
It was a pleasure. I'm very, very proud to be here on the Backlog.
Hey. All right, everybody. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Darrin.
I'm Joe.
And this is the Backlog Exposed. All right, everybody. Have a good one. Take care.